I just drove from D.C. area, PG County, and we just, we already had this conversation. So first I want to thank you for not being my guidance, but leading me back to my guidance.
There you go. There you go. It's got to be that way, yes.
And so from your first line of your introduction, I could not have said it better. And we had this dialogue already. I'm always with you guys. This is the relationship I've always had. But the clarity that you've given me, I want to thank you for that. Yeah. There's a saying here that we have as humans that we make it from the bottom to the top. But most of that's associated with material things. Money, for instance. If you're at the bottom, you don't have that. If you get to the top, then that's what they associate it with. But the real truth, making it from the bottom to the top, is vibration. And when you make it back to the top, Abraham, it's like you spoke about earlier, that is who we really are. Yeah. And I just want to thank you for that, because as a humanity, the one thing that's really plagued us, that we've labeled the great void, that we try to fill with material things or relationships or objects or whatever the case may be, the great void is really you and your inner being. You
not letting you in. There is no void, but you perceive it.
Perceive it as that.
You perceive it that way because you're perceiving something that does not allow that in. So what are we going to talk about now?
Well, there's a few things. So I'm always floating, and I'm always up in what people call the heavenly realm.
So what's going on? What made you want to talk to us? Do you just want to tell us how good life is?
Not just that, but that's definitely one thing that I wanted to say, just because I want everybody to laugh real quick with this one example. One day, just a few weeks ago, really, really feeling being in the vortex. And I never really used these labels as words because I don't really like labels. But I remember driving and tears are flowing of just feeling the joy and fully present. And so I see these birds on the highway, and I see two of them. I'm like, universe, show me a sign. Within 2 seconds, I see another bird. And so my windows are down, and the bird takes a poop everywhere on my car, and I start laughing. Like, I laugh, and it was exactly what I wanted. You know what I mean? Like, and people, when I told this to some people, they're like, that's pretty crazy. You're the only one that can see the positive in that. I said, nope, I created that. So what I want to talk about.
It's not just the positive. In other words, you see birds, and you're in your car driving, and you're asking the universe to give you some awareness that these birds are aware of you. What other choice did they have?
No other choice.
It was the path of least resistance. In other words, they love you, but they weren't going to give up their life for you. They weren't going to slam into your windshield or fly in the window. You want to know we see you? Yeah.
All right, so my question that I've been thinking about, I understand that we're all really about evolving our perspective. If we hold on to a certain perspective, that is what we call the ego. But as we keep evolving our perspective, to me, that's where freedom really lies.
We agree. We want to say it just slightly different. In your physical personality, you are on the leading edge. So that's what you're calling evolving your ego. You are on the leading edge. This is the leading edge where manifestations happen. So since you are a manifestation on the leading edge, that manifestation, you're describing it as ego, we're describing it as leading edge. The vibration is expanding and showing itself out here where you can see it and hear it and smell it and taste it and touch it. Yes?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And now, so my question is, I feel like I'm on the very, very far edge of this, where I'm going, because I love trekking in unknown territory. But what is this awareness?
Here's an important thing. So I'm on the very far edge, but you see, it's always the leading edge. It's always the leading edge. And so it's as far as the leading edge is, but there's no ending to where that leading edge is. And so when you say, I can feel that I'm on the far edge of that, what you're really saying is, life has caused me to extend myself beyond where most are. And because I'm vibrationally up to speed with my inner being, I am consciously realizing it. In other words, let us say it this way. As everybody lives life in their physical body, and their day-to-day experience causes them to ask for more. They are creating leading edges that are just indescribable in terms of their expansion. Every single person is doing that. And every one of them has an inner being who then is embracing that new leading edge, focusing fantastically and fully upon it, and bringing the energy that creates worlds to it. So that leading edge is gestating and becoming more and more and more and more and more and more and more. In other words, everybody has that leading edge, but it's only one like you who can get into the receiving mode and perceive that leading edge. And that's why you want to call it ego. Did you get that? Because you're doing it with your conscious mind, you see. So what's different about what you just said about yourself and what most are doing? Most are like you. They're here as extensions. Most are like you. They're mixing it up. Most are like you. They know what they don't want, so they know what they do want, so they're launching further rockets. So most have extended the leading edge way, way, way beyond what is manifested. All have an inner being just like you, and their inner beings are all looking upon it. And so the gestation and the bigness of this vibrational reality, it is huge. So what's making the difference between you and most of the others? You are getting into the receiving mode where you're consciously aware. You are consciously receiving. And so you're turning the vibration into something that is manifested. And once again, that's why you want to call it ego.
Thank you for that.
So many people, they're focusing their ego, but they're leaving out this part and this part and the inner being part and this part. So they're down here in this receptive mode. So they're not even close to the fullness of who they are. That's why they don't claim the leading edge. You can only claim the leading edge through the vortex, because the vortex is the mechanism by which the new evolves and becomes. And if you leave the vibrational reality part out of it and you focus your ego upon it, then your receptive mode is not serving you very well, is it? It's just regurgitation of more of the same and more of the same and more of the same. That's the most expansive conversation that we've had about vortex and how it relates to the human personality that you want to call ego ever. That was a really wonderful conversation.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Esther.
And
Abraham, one little thing that I need, I don't know, maybe the answers always come anyways because everything always works out for me, but what is this awareness that we are? We don't have an awareness. At the very root, we are this awareness. So Abraham is this awareness, right? And we're just expressing.
Well, again, go back to what we were just saying. So when you came into your physical body, you and your inner being were one, and you had that awareness. But then as you began playing the role, the important role that you knew you were coming to play of sifting through contrast in order to give birth to new, most humans got sort of lost in that contrast. So even though they're giving birth to the new ideas, as they started to become adults, they focused so much in opposition to their own expansion by spending too much time beating the drum of the problem that they just developed thick skin that makes them less and less and less receptive, so that it's only in a sort of remarkable moment that they see the light for a minute. But that's really not enough, is it? You got to do it on purpose. You got to tune yourself to the frequency of the wholeness of who you are deliberately.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I would like to share an example. Just last year in Philadelphia, a year ago, I brought my parents. They're both from India. And so they don't, their mother tongue is not English. So they don't really, my mom especially doesn't really get the gist of the words and the meanings behind them. But on the car ride up here, this was last year. They can't come this time because they're about to go to India. But on the whole ride up here, I was explaining to them, and my mom understands it. She vibrationally gets it. The first time I brought her to a workshop, the words didn't mean nothing. She kept falling asleep. I kept knocking her, waking up, like, wake up, Ma, you right here in the first row. Wake up. You know what I mean? But and I already knew she was feeling the vibrational, because here, even if no one comes up here, everything's vibrational. You're already giving that to them. They're giving it to them themselves. But so last year we get to the hotel, and I'm checking in, and I see Esther standing right in the middle of the lobby, and it was perfect timing. Everything was perfect timing. My mom comes out, she's crying, gives Esther a hug, and I'm just like, I knew I was expecting this to happen, you know what I mean? And my dad, he's taking a picture of me and you, of Esther, and my dad he's not good with none of this electronics. So he's taking a picture, it's all crooked, so Esther says, She's like, I don't think we really trust that picture that much. You know what I mean? And then we start laughing. And then I go upstairs, and I had brought just a few small items for Esther. And I didn't know if I was going to see her again. I come back down, and boom, I see I'm getting off the elevator. She's coming. And then we meet in the restaurant. We sit down. And I say this all because everything was perfect. Timing, everything was. And we didn't even have that much of words when we sat down together, but it was the knowing. The knowing.
We want to say about what you were saying about what happens here. Well, what happens here is really not so different from what's happening to everyone everywhere in this way. Everyone, whether they know it or not, is an extension of source energy. And source is flowing to everyone all the time. The only thing that happens in a gathering like this is that there is more emphasis put upon being in that receiving mode. There is more expectation of being in that receiving mode. So in a gathering like this, more people do what they naturally could be doing all day, every day, just because of a difference in their expectation that is modified a little bit by the words that we are offering. That's all we or you or any of us can do for anyone. All we can do is teach through the clarity of our example that well-being does abound, but that you got to figure out how to let it in. That really is.
And to piggyback off of that, so as I keep moving into the state of being aligned fully with my inner being.
We want to say that differently,
okay.
Because that alignment is not something like a college degree that once you achieve it, it's yours forevermore. It either is or it isn't in the moment. So as I emotionally reach